F. Winter, and this is Confusional Arousals. I've always been open to the unknown, the mystical. In other words, I've always been a bit off. Right after grad school, I was working for a theater company in Gainesville, Florida, the Hippodrome. I was working with their kids' programs, creating shows based on the participants' view of the world. My boss sent me to a mental health conference because many of my young actors had faced trauma in their homes and lives. I was walking around collecting lots of brightly colored pencils and other very important paraphernalia when I stopped in front of a booth measuring brain waves. The gentleman at the booth asked me if I wanted to try. Immediately, I felt I was at a sketchy carnival and this guy wanted to guess my weight. I have enjoyed many sketchy carnivals in my time, and I said, why not? He placed this open-frame device on my head that had electrodes touching my scalp. He told the crowd, which had gathered, that he was giving me an EEG, which was measuring my brain activity. He told me to relax. I took several deep breaths, closed my eyes, and went to my happy place. After a few moments, he suddenly stopped his mildly witty banter and demonstration, and he asked me to step behind his booth. I followed him, being accustomed to going behind sketchy carnival booths with strangers. He asked me several questions. Are you a substance abuser? No. Have you been abused as a child? No. Have you suffered any traumatic brain injuries? No. Then I don't understand this. What? Your delta waves are abnormally high. What do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. Never mind, the man said before returning to the front of his booth. A little science on brain waves. Brain waves are electrical currents in the brain that are measured in hertz and indicate brain activity. Delta waves are most common during deep sleep. They are also present in some abnormal processes and are the dominant rhythm in infants up to 1 year of age. So, according to this carnival barker doctor, I think like an infant before language is developed. It is also a place where people go in deepest meditation. This was unsurprising to me because 10 years earlier, when I was in college, I was a disciple of an Indian mystic for a while, until I realized I didn't like being happy all the time. Gee whiz, a disciple in a cult and a theater degree? Who says I threw away my college education? So, I live in a very weird place. Not a particularly happy one, but I do all right. I have been to a therapist a couple of times. She didn't sense any deep psychological things going on because, for the most part in my life, I have been able to hold down a job, pay my mortgage, and have meaningful, albeit casual, relationships. And I can point to many people in my life who are much more screwed up than I am. I am flying under the radar, and that's just where I want to be. Although, if I did have a condition, and this is tied to the name of my podcast, I would shoot for dissociative disorder, or at least I experience dissociative episodes. Here is the definition I found on the web. A dissociative episode is a period of time when someone experiences a disconnection from their thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. Dissociative episodes can last from hours or days to weeks or months. Disassociation is a normal process that everyone experiences, such as when daydreaming or getting lost in a good book. However, disassociation can also be a way the mind copes with too much stress, especially after a traumatic event. During disassociation, someone might feel like they are watching everything from a distance, or that the world around them is distorted. Symptoms of a dissociative episode include Feeling disconnected from yourself or the world around you. Check. My first experience was this when a friend of mine was murdered. My parents went to the funeral, and they had a family friend watch me as I was only 5 years old. My mom's friend took me to the beach, and I felt myself rise out of my body, and I saw myself watching the beautiful and serene waves lapping against the shore from a distance. After a few moments, I returned to my body. My first sensation was my feet in the cold water. Another symptom of dissociation is forgetting about certain time periods, events, or personal information. I don't remember much about my junior and senior years in college, but I think that was due to other factors. Feeling uncertain about who you are. Duh. I'm doing a podcast called Confusional Arousals, which is about being uncertain about who I am. Having multiple distinct identities. Now, this is the first time I have admitted this publicly, but I do hear voices on occasion. The weird thing about it is that the voices are never talking to me, and sometimes, to be totally honest, I feel left out. They are having meaningless conversations about meaningless things that are none of my business. I used to keep a journal of these conversational snippets. Here are some of my favorites. He lost an eye over there. What about the Jews and their grandmother? You have to learn where to hide your money so that no one can steal it. I know you can't see anything, but this is unprecedented. Whether he is right or wrong is a matter for another time. If AI can find you, he can save you. It is all potash. To continue with the list of dissociative symptoms, feeling little or no physical pain, that is not me. If I get a splinter, I have to take a sick day. Having problems handling intense emotions. I usually objectify situations very quickly, and then I don't have to deal with it. Having sudden, unexpected shifts in mood. Well, that was a very mean thing to say, and I hate you. I hate you! Dissociative disorders are complex and controversial and require professional diagnosis, treatment, and support. So obviously, my reading one article online makes me an expert and qualifies me to self-diagnose. So, all this scary talk will eventually come to a point, but for right now, I have to take another diversion. Back in 2008, I started working on a book, Cinderella's End. It is about what happens to Cinderella after she is brought back to the castle to live happily ever after. She doesn't. All sorts of terrible things happen to her. After I published it in 2014, I realized it wasn't a single book, but a part of a trilogy. That wasn't because it was a commercial success. It was just more of her story to tell. I finished the second part during the pandemic and hope to self-publish in the spring of next year, or 2025, if a publisher doesn't come out of the woodwork. Let me tell you, no worries there. I finished writing the last part of the trilogy this summer. So I've been working on these books for 16 years and have discovered many interesting things that have changed my outlook on life, like mini confusional arousals. Here's what I'm talking about. I believe that there are around 60 versions of the Cinderella story from all different cultures which had no connection to each other when the story started circulating. They all tell of an abandoned girl, sweet and pure, at the mercy of the elements and the evil people around her. But she remains good and true throughout the sorrow. Usually, there's a supernatural element, like a fairy godmother, who helps her meet the man of her dreams, He marries her and gives her a good life. What I find disagreeable about this tale is that she is so passive, and someone has to rescue her. But besides this one disagreeable plot point, I find the story mind-blowing because through it, I found Carl Jung's connection to fairy tales. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, said, and I'm sure Jungians would be up in arms about me explaining it in this way, but who cares? They are Jungians. He postulated that this story and many others like it are connected on a deeper level that we can only contact in our dreams. Broader view here. So we have this level of consciousness. That is where we live every day. We work, we eat, we play, we procreate, sometimes at the same time, sometimes separately. It doesn't matter. When we go to sleep and dream, we enter the subconscious. That weird, disjointed place is somehow meaningful if we can only remember and decode our dreams. Jung, by the way, said, we don't need a dream interpreter because the images have a unique connection to the individual dreamer. Only we can interpret our dreams. So time does not exist in the subconscious. This is understood. Time does not exist there. In our dreams, a minute could be an hour, and a century can pass in a millisecond. To get even stranger, there's a level deeper than the subconscious, which is the collective unconscious. In Jungian psychology, this is part of the unconscious mind that is derived from ancestral memory and experience and is common to all humankind. And it is distinct from the individual's unconscious. So, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is the sum total of human knowledge and experience. Everything that anyone has ever experienced can be found there. All the lost knowledge of humanity is in the collective unconscious. Here's the rub, as Hamlet almost said. We have no direct method of accessing the collective unconscious. We can hardly access the subconscious, and when we do, it is a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. Going back here, the collective unconscious is a place where time also does not exist, with all the knowledge of all that has happened and all that will ever happen. And I am using the term place really loosely. It is not a dimension that we know exists. However, there is some thinking about how many dimensions there are. And there is a dimension that encompasses every other possible dimension. Also from the internet, according to our current understanding of physics, we experience 3 spatial dimensions: length, width, and height, and 1 dimension of time, making a total of 4 dimensions in our observable universe. However, theories like string theory propose the existence of many more dimensions, often suggesting 10 dimensions in total. But these additional dimensions are thought to be curled up so small that we cannot detect them with current technology. With current technology. So, how I am interpreting this is that there are many dimensions, but at this time, we have no way to scientifically measure them. Here's my question then. Why can we accept that with science, but with not philosophy? I choose not to say faith because I would not want to upset your religious sensibilities. Once again, quoting A.F. Winter, the collective unconscious is a place where time does not exist, with all the knowledge of all that has happened and all that will ever happen. This sounds to me a lot like God. Oops, I guess I did upset some of your religious sensibilities. But hear me out. Hear me out a few more minutes, because I don't think I'm really saying anything that is against what you already believe if you believe in a higher being. All that I have said to this point in the episode is that I have severe mental issues and that God is an eternal, all-knowing entity. Now, many of you believe that God is a loving God, but how can He love us if He never communicates with us? After all, He exists 2 levels below our conscious world. Here's my solution. If we look at many cultures, we have this idea of the spirit helper. Whether these benevolent beings are animal spirits, holy saints, or our fairy godmothers, they are entities that give us guidance when we are at our most fragile. They are the connections with the collective unconscious, and generally, we make these connections when we are without hope, when the lives we have lived have given us nothing of what we really wanted, or maybe has given us everything that we really wanted, but now we realize all that was given us was nothing. Our connection with the eternal only happens when we sever our connection with the real and mundane and look deep inside ourselves. I think every true prophet has gone through a similar process. I think every great artist and every great thinker has somehow made this connection because their sermons, their paintings, their music, and writing somehow transport the viewer, the listener, to a place that they have never dreamed of. And before I close, I would like you to know that I don't consider myself a great prophet, artist, or thinker. Really, I would not want a religious following, a bunch of whiny people asking me for a new car, a better job, or a younger wife. Solve your own dang problems, you baby. And life sucks if you let it. And life can be better if you allow it to be. I went to Auschwitz last March. Such a terrible place. Outside the gas chamber in Birkenau, I picked up a small, flat stone. When I got home, I drilled a hole in the stone and fed some string through it. I wear that around my neck when I am feeling helpless. Those stones existed thousands of years before the Nazis took power and might last for thousands of years after humans have ceased to exist. But life continues through the terrible times, and life continues through the good times. Batsheva Dagan, a Holocaust survivor, once said, "Life is the most beautiful gift we can receive. And every moment we are alive, if we are only open to it, we can receive that gift again and again." Until next time, I am A.F. Winter, and this is Confusional Arousals.